What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Financial Workout. Today we will be talking about how to create a simple budget for the first time that actually works. But before I go over a simple sample budget, let me talk to you about why you should create one. In my view, a budget is a tool that helps you optimize your financial habits by looking at your inflows and outflows. It does not mean that you starve yourself. It is only a way to make your spending a lot more efficient. Budgeting can be really important and can serve as a first step towards your financial goals, especially if you're just starting out. It helps you discover any wasteful spending and realize what is necessary and unnecessary spending that you can cut. It also helps you be less stressful about your money because you won't be guessing if you can afford something or not, and it would help with other goals as well. Like for having an emergency fund, experts recommend having 3 to 6 times your monthly expenses. But how would you have a proper emergency fund with 3 to 6 times your monthly expenses if you don't know your monthly expenses? Furthermore, cutting down unnecessary spending would help you achieve financial goals faster. If you get more savings now by budgeting, that would reduce the time needed to get to your financial goals. If you know what is coming in and what is going out every month, you can develop and change your habits to optimize the flow of your money, which in turn would help you deploy more cash where you want it, like towards your financial goals. And while it may sound like you're restricted at first, you wouldn't feel that after a few months if you create the right budget. In fact, it's really giving you more freedom in the long run. So now let's get into how you can create a simple budget. Try to keep your budget as detailed as easily possible. And while creating your first budget may take you some time, you need to realize that this is an investment that you are making into your future. So the first thing you would do for the budget is record all your inflows. For most people, this would be the paycheck you get from work. Now, if you have an annual salary, let's assume $60,000. You would put that as your annual gross income. To get to your monthly income, just divide that by 12. Or what I like to do is actually divide by 13. And the reason for that is number one, to be more conservative, and number two, because that is probably the true number of your cash inflow if you get paid bi-weekly, which I do. Let me explain that more. On a $60,000 annual salary, the bi-weekly paycheck you would get would be close to $2,300. You just divide the $60,000 by 26 to get to that number, since there are 52 weeks and you get paid bi-weekly. Now, if you multiply that number by 2, signifying that you get paid bi-weekly 2 times a month, you would get a little over $4,600, which is what you get if you divide your annual income by 13 and not 12. The only way you get paid more than twice a month is if you get paid in the first 3 days of the month. So I like to be conservative and think I would get my bi-weekly paycheck twice a month and use that for my monthly income. But if that doesn't make sense to you, you can just divide it by 12. If you are paid hourly, what I want you to do is multiply your hourly wage with 40. This is your weekly income if you work 40 hours a week, and then multiply it by 52 weeks to get to your annual income. Then divide that by 12 or 13 to get to your monthly income. If you're someone whose pay includes tips or commissions, what I recommend you to do is look at your past 3 months of your paycheck and average it out to get to your monthly income, or choose the lowest month if you want to be more conservative. I would also add up any other guaranteed fixed inflows you may have from maybe your side hustle, dividends, or anything else. If you have some side income that is extremely variable or not guaranteed, I would not add them just to be more conservative. Once you have your gross income, make sure you subtract any automatic deductions or withholdings that you may have with your employer, like for your 401k, HSA, insurance, etc. For 401k or insurance expense, you would probably already know what you're contributing, but if you don't, just adjust the number on your paycheck for the month. So if you get paid bi-weekly, just multiply by 2 to get an estimate. I'm going to assume 5% for 401k contributions and $50 for insurance expense. After subtracting those, you would get to your income before taxes. For taxes, if you have a regular job, look at the amount of your taxes in your paycheck and then divide by your income before taxes to get your tax rate. Now multiply this rate by your monthly income on your budget to get your monthly taxes. For $60,000, the rate would be around 22 to 23% for all taxes. One thing to note is that if you have a Roth 401k instead of a 401k, then you would subtract that contribution after subtracting taxes. But since we already have a 401k, I won't do that. So $3,300 is about what we get for our net pay after subtracting for all the contributions and taxes, assuming a 23% tax rate and a 5% contribution rate to 401k. This is the number that you actually get per month. This should match or at least be close to your net pay on your paycheck minus any other inflows you may have added. Now comes the fun part, calculating your monthly expenses. This may be the most time-consuming if you don't want to rely on technology, but once you have a budget set up, then it becomes really easy, especially if you rely on an app. I personally use an app called Mint, but there are several others that you can use. And what you would need to do is just take a look at your budget at least once a month to make sure you're on track, whether it's on an app or you look manually at your statements and fill it out. That's just 12 times in a year. You would want to list out exactly what you are spending and on what. You can do this by going back and tracking it, which is what I did, or you can start from today and list out whatever you spend for the next month or two. Once you have records of your expenses, categorize them. Now your categories may be different, but everyone would have fixed expenses like your rent or mortgage, your gym membership, internet, and others that you can't necessarily change right away. And then you would have expenses that are variable, like how much you spend on food, how much you spend on groceries, on shopping, etc. So list all of these categories out. I like to list my fixed expenses first and then my variable expenses, but it doesn't really matter how you list it. The point is, you have more immediate control over variable expenses. And once you see what you're spending on these categories, ask yourself if you're being the most efficient and challenge yourself to spend less on some of these categories. This is exactly what I did when I first started budgeting, and it wasn't that hard for me to cut back on some of my spending. Another good idea is that for each category, you figure out what percent of your net income are you spending on each group and how much of your income are you saving. Once you subtract all your outflows from all your inflows, you would have what you can invest and put towards your financial goals. Note that this is excluding your 401k and any other similar accounts. So your true savings per month are higher than this number, but I like to use this number because this is what I expect to get in my hands every month, which I can then put wherever I want. I really hope that this is a positive number for you. If it is not, then you may have to take some drastic actions to turn that number positive. And make sure you're not making any of these 10 mistakes that I talked about to make sure you get to a positive number quick. Even if the number is positive, I'm sure you can make that number much bigger by challenging yourself just a little bit. Whenever I'm about to spend on anything, I think about the opportunity cost of that money, and not just in terms of what that money is worth today, but what it could be if I keep it invested. Having that mindset allowed me to want to spend less money and grow that money instead. Once you have a positive number, you need to prioritize your financial goals and put these savings toward these goals. The goal isn't just to hoard money, it's to grow it and make yourself financially free. I do certain things with my money each month to put them to work and towards my financial goals. But maybe that's a video for another time. Most people get their income, spend it, and then invest or put towards their financial goals. What I think maybe people should do is put towards financial goals first and then spend so they don't spend on anything unnecessary, and because it's a great way to limit spending. This way you would have no more money to spend because it would already be invested and put aside for your goals. But you need to know what your monthly expenses are for this strategy to work because you don't want to overinvest either. And do this after you've practiced budgeting for several months, because it would take a few months to get to your perfect budget. It took me months as well, especially because I would keep trying to be more efficient than the previous month, and I encourage you to be more efficient too. I hope this video helps you start a budget and you start on it right away, because it can really push you to put more money towards your financial goals and achieve financial freedom faster. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have a budget and comment down below how it helps you with your finances.